chesed yibaneh, Yadadai, Yadadai, Olam chesed yibaneh, Yadadai, Yadadai, Olam chesed yibaneh, Yadadai.
Shabbat Shalom. It is wonderful for all of us to be together tonight, to be in community as best as we can during these days. And I invite you to pull out your Shabbat candlesticks, your wine for Kiddush, so that together we can welcome in Shabbat. As these Shabbat candles give light to all who behold them, so may we, by our lives, give light to all who behold us. As their brightness reminds us of the generations of Israel who have kindled light, so may we in our own day be among those who kindle light as we welcome and bring the light toward each of us. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, Asher kiddushanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu lahadlik ner shel Shabbat. Blessed are you, Adonai our God, who sanctifies us with mitzvot and commands us to kindle the lights of Shabbat. And if you are able, I ask that you rise now for Kiddush.
And there was evening, and there was morning, the sixth day. The heaven and the earth were finished, and all their array. On the seventh day, God finished the work that God had been doing, and God ceased on the seventh day from all the work that God had done. And God blessed the seventh day and declared it holy, because on it God ceased from all the work of creation that God had done. And we join in together. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, borei peri hagafen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kidshanu b'mitzvotav v'ratzavanu. V'shabbat kodsho be'ahava uvratzon hinchilanu. Zikaron lema'aseh v'reishit, ki hu yom techila lamikra kodesh, zecher letziat Mitzrayim, ki vanu v'acharta v'otanu kidashta Mikol ha'amim, B'Shabbat kodshecha, Be'ahava uvratzon, v'nechaltanu, Baruch atah Adonai, Mekadesh HaShabbat. L'chaim.
L'chaim. So tonight, it's Friday the 13th. But I want to remind everybody, as I always do on Friday the 13th, that we Jews do not fear this day. We do not fear 13. Why? What is the age of bat mitzvah? How many months are there in the Hebrew lunar calendar's leap year? Don't forget there are 13 attributes of God. Maimonides formulated the 13 principles of faith. And when Israel was established in 1948, the first provisional government had 13 members. And yet, 8 months ago, Friday, March 13th, was the day when the county announced that on March 18th, it would be shutting down for COVID, and Friday, March 13th, was the last in-person Friday night service that we have had in 2020.
Wow.
Here we are 8 months later, and what was announced today, not a shutdown, but a pseudo shutdown. And many of us are likely thinking, 2020, what else are you going to bring to us? It figures. It's Friday the 13th. And yet, we could say, both of those announcements on Friday the 13th in the past 8 months were about safety. They were about saving lives. They were not about fear and worry and dread and whatever else. And of course, with today's announcement, one of the things that happened is that some of the Hanukkah plans that we had been making here at United Hebrew, scratch, throw away, back to the drawing board. It was one of those moments of man plans and God laughs. And then I was on a call today with some colleagues, and one of my colleagues spoke about this time, and her focus of late has been finding joy. And there was this discussion of perhaps we need to have a movement, which this group called Joy Now, #JoyNow, that we needed to find joy. And I brought it up to Rabbi Bellows after that meeting, and I asked him, what's the opposite of fear? We had a lot of discussions about the opposite of fear. What were some of the things that you shared?
Oh, it could be love, it could be respect, it could be awe, it could be hope, it could be...
I think we threw out courage.
Courage.
We threw out a lot of things. And then we had this moment of, could joy be the opposite of fear? Rabbi Menachem Mendel says, for with joy you can go out and bid farewell to all of your afflictions and your problems. I've been scratching my head with that one. How do we go out with joy and get rid of all of our afflictions and problems? Because that would seem to me that right now, for those of us who every day feel, not again, when is this going to be over? How do we deal with that with joy? Rabbi Bellows.
Yes, Rabbi Rosenberg.
What do you think in terms of that statement of joy? How do you think, if someone were to say to you, Rabbi Bellows, it's all about joy. Joy is what you need to dispel fear, to dispel dread, to dispel worry, to dispel everything else.
Well, I haven't had any thought about it because this is improvised.
And that's okay.
But I was thinking about the difference between what part of us in what part of us is that fear versus in what part of us is that joy, and it's kind of like a choice. That fear is something that the animalistic side of us, just like maybe the soul that we're born with, like that can succumb to that fear, and we can make the choice. We can make the choice to pursue joy, and I had also thought about that. The word in Hebrew for fearing God can be a positive or a negative. It's fearing, and it's this awe. It's this joy in the power of God. And one more thought I had is the fact that in Hebrew we have a bunch of different words for different kinds of joy. We have simcha, we have sason, we have oneg, yeah, rejoicing. So like joy is so important in our existence as Jews that we have many words for joy. And I have one more thing. Can I say one more thing?
Absolutely.
Okay. We are called Yehudim. We are Jews. We are called Yehudim. And the root of that word is like hodu. It's like lehodot is gratitude and being grateful. And so like the root of who we are is to embrace the gratitude in our lives and seek the joy and find joy now. Hashtag.
I love that. And actually what I think is interesting, I want to dovetail to what you were saying about fear, and that while there are also many, many words for fear in Hebrew. And they can be nuanced as well in terms of how we read into them that type of fear. But I think when we think about fear and joy potentially as opposites, is they are things that we feel in the moment. They aren't necessarily things that we think about later on. You know, we can work towards happiness, but joy is something that is to be experienced in the moment. And so Rabbi Jonathan Sachs, alav shalom, says that recognition is that joy lives not in tomorrow, not in what could be, but just as you said, in a grateful acceptance and a celebration of today. And that when we focus on the moment, when we allow ourselves to dance and sing and give thanks, and when we do things for their own sake, not for any other, that is when we become this voice of joy. And yet, I can imagine for most of us the idea of joy right now is, what is it that I have to be joyful for? Well, we have each new day. And part of it is finding that moment in each and every day, as you said, as Jews, where we can say, this is good. Because if we look back at the history of our people, there are so many places where we could say there wasn't joy, and yet what kept us going? Finding joy in each and every moment. And I want to share with you really quickly a story. It is called Yaakov Shraga, a short story written by Alden Salovey. Each day, he says, Yaakov Shraga goes to dance in the woods in secret. He stands perfectly still, his arms at his sides, closes his eyes, and he listens to the birds chirp and to the wind rustle in the leaves. And he watches the rays of morning light filter through the branches and the leaves. And as he takes a breath in that cool morning air, he lifts his arms from the wrists, and when his wrists reach his shoulders, he begins to sway. He goes left, then right, left, right, and his arms flow back and forth. And then he begins a nigun, much like what we heard earlier. Yai, dai, 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 dai. Yada, dai, 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 yada, dai, dai. And he stretches his fingers towards heaven, and his hands and his wrists and his elbows and shoulders continue to lilt with the tune. And of course, his feet, compelled by the joy of the song and the rhythm, they carry him, stepping as he dances to the left and to the right. And he twirls and he sways his body, and his body in that moment of nigun becomes a prayer. And the birds listen, and the winds cool him, and the morning light bends toward Yaakov Shraga to see. He dances and he sings until he falls asleep. And in his dream, he continues to dance and sing and spin and pray with all his heart, with all his soul, and all his might. And each day, Yaakov Shraga, who is homebound, goes to dance in the woods in his mind, where only God can see him. And even in those moments when we feel homebound, it is here in our minds, in our hearts, and our souls where we can dig deep if we close our eyes, if we sing a tune, if we just give ourselves over to the moment and find that joy that bubbles within. God's love lingers where the rainbows hide, waiting to burst forth in radiant glory. How this joyous soul yearns for you, your blessings and your grace, your wisdom and your compassion. This joyous voice sings your praises. God's love lingers at the gates of your heart, waiting to burst forth in luminous splendor. And tonight, as we welcome in Shabbat, Shabbat is all about joy. We are supposed to rejoice in this day, no matter what is going on in our lives. And so I invite you tonight, if you are feeling it, the beauty is you are at home. And so if you feel like dancing in the midst of services, if you feel like singing at the top of your lungs, do it to bring in the joy of Shabbat. Do it to bring that joy into yourself, into your heart and your soul. And we continue now as we welcome in Shabbat and the Shabbat bride, joyously singing Lecha Dodi.
Lecha lecha dodi, likrat kala, penei penei Shabbat nekabala. Lecha lecha dodi, likrat kala, penei penei Shabbat nekabala. La 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 la. Lecha dodi, likrat kala, penei penei Shabbat nekabala. Lecha dodi, likrat kala, penei penei Shabbat nekabela. Shamor v'zachor v'dibor echad. Hishmi'anu el hameyuchad, Adonai echad, u'shemo echad. L'shemo tiferet velid hilan la 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 la. Lecha dodi, likrat kala, penei penei Shabbat nekabela. Lecha dodi, likrat kala, penei penei Shabbat nekabela. Likrat Shabbat, lechu v'nelcha, ki hi mekor haberacha, merosh mikedem nesucha, sof ma'aseh b'machshavat tchila. La 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 la. Lecha dodi, likrat kala, penei penei Shabbat nekabela. Lecha dodi, likrat kala, penei Shabbat nekabela. I invite you to rise and face the west, face toward the setting sun. There's no setting sun, your entrance. Bo'i v'shalom ateret ba'alam, gam b'simcha u'v'tzola, toch emunei am Sigula, Boichala, Boichala. Lecha, lecha, dodi, lekrat, lekrat, kala, penei, penei, Shabbat, nekabala. Lecha, lecha, dodi, lekrat, lekrat, kala, penei, penei, Shabbat, nekabala. If you're not dancing yet, now's the time. Lecha, dodi, lekrat, lekrat, kala, penei, penei, Shabbat, nekabala. Lecha, lecha, dodi, lekrat, lekrat, kala, penei, penei, Shabbat, nekabala.
And we continue on page 146 with Baruch Hu.
Yai la 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 la. Yai la 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 la. Yai la 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 la. Yai la 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 la. Yai la 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 la. Yai la 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 la. Yai la 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 la. Yai la la la. Baruch Hu et Adonai Amevorach. Baruch Adonai Amevorach, Amevorach leolam vaed. Amevorach, Amevorach leolam vaed.
And a poem for joy. Listen with your eyes and hear with your heart. In every grief there is blessing. In every joy there is hope. In every love, thanksgiving. In every thought, wisdom. In every breath, renewal. In every moment, a choice. To stay bent in sorrow or to lift ourselves in songs of praise to God Most High. To dance with Miriam, to dream with Jacob, to laugh with Sarah, to greet angels with Abraham, to argue with heaven on behalf of earth. God of the seen and unseen, creator of light and darkness, author of justice and mercy, give us the courage and strength to choose a life of service, guided by your loving hand, a life of song and dance, gentleness and peace, honor and grace, kindness and understanding. Blessed are you, Adonai, our God. You love joy and service. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu, ohev simcha v'sameach b'tikun ha'olam. And we continue now with Shema.
Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. Baruch Shem Kevod Malchuto Leolam Vaed.
And on page 155, we read together. Love your God with every heartbeat, with every breath, with every conscious act. Keep in mind the words I command you today. Teach them to your children. Talk about them at work. Whether you are tired or you are rested, let them guide the work of your hands. Keep them in the forefront of your vision. Do not leave them at the doorway of your house or outside your gate. They are reminders to do all of my mitzvot, so that you can be holy for God. I am Adonai, your God. I led you out of Egypt to become your God. I am Adonai, your God. Rabbi Bellows, did you know that today is World Kindness Day?
I did know that.
So it is World Kindness Day, and when we think about how is it that we share and show God's love in this world, and how do we bring joy? Kindness.
Makes sense.
Kindness. So I want you to take a moment and think about what is something over this Shabbat that you can do to spread a little kindness and to bring joy into not only your own life, but into someone else's life. What's something you can do?
Oh.
You?
Oh.
I'm putting you on the spot, I'm sorry.
Well, I thought that was like a rhetorical.
It is, but I'm asking you anyway. It is for everybody else who can't answer me.
Well, I think that just us striving to still be here on a Friday night and to be here and to be able to pray together and be together and provide a little bit of moments of reflection and moments of mindfulness for everybody. I think for me personally, that's something that I can bring into the world.
Thank you. I think I will say picking up the telephone. I picked up the telephone this afternoon and I'm saying hello once again, Norman Wolf. I want to say how much it lifted my heart and my soul to hear a voice that I had not heard in such a long time. And based on what you just said, Rabbi Bellows, it's something where so many people watching from home hear us and see us, but we truly are missing all of you. And so pick up the phone, reach out to someone you haven't seen or heard from in a while, and I think that brings such joy, such joy. We think of joy and redemption as we turn to Mi Chamocha.
Mi chamocha ba'elim Adonai, mi kamocha nedar b'kodesh, nora tehi lo, osef eleh. Who is like you? Who is like you, Adonai? Who is like you, Adonai? When Moses and the children crossed the sea, they sang to you with songs of joy. Who is like you, Adonai? Mi chamocha ba'elim Adonai, mi kamocha nedar b'kodesh, nora tehi lo, osef eleh.
We continue with our evening prayer for peace, Hashkivenu.
Hashkivenu Adonai, Eloheinu leshalom, v'hamidenu shomreinu lechayim. Spread your shelter of your peace over us. Guide us in wisdom, compassion, and trust. Hashkivenu
And as we turn to the words of Vishamru, we think of the words of Ahad Ha'am. More than the Jewish people has Shabbat kept the Jewish people. A reminder of the gift of time that God gave us, but perhaps more importantly, a reminder of the moment that no matter what has happened in our week, this moment, we rejoice. We rejoice in being Jewish, and we rejoice in our relationship with God.
V'shamru b'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat la'asot et ha-Shabbat ledorotam berit olam. V'shamru b'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat la'asot et ha-Shabbat ledorotam berit olam. Beini uvein b'nei Yisrael, oti leolam, oti leolam. V'shamru b'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat la'asot et ha-Shabbat ledorotam berit olam. Ki sheshet yamim asa Adonai et hashamayim ve'et haaretz v'shamru b'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat la'asot et ha-Shabbat ledorotam berit olam. Uvayom hashvi Shabbat vaynafash, Shabbat vaynafash, Shabbat vaynafash. V'shamru b'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat la'asot et ha-Shabbat ledorotam berit olam. V'shamru b'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat la'asot et ha-Shabbat ledorotam berit olam.
And we turn now to page 164 in our prayer books as we rise for the Amidah.
Adonai sifatai tiftach ufi yagid tehillattecha. Adonai, open up my lips that my mouth may declare your praise. Page 166. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu v'Elohei avoteinu v'imotenu, Elohei Abraham, Elohei Yitzchak, Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel, Elohei Leah, Ha'el Hagadol, Hagibor v'Hanora, El Elyon, Gomel Chasadim Tovim, V'Konei Hakol, V'Zocher Chastei Avod V'Imahot, U'Mevi Geula Livnei V'neihem, L'Ma'an Shemo Be'ahava, Melech Ozer U'Moshia U'Magen. Baruch atah Adonai, Magen Abraham ve'ezrat Sarah. Page 168. Atah gibor leolam Adonai, Mechaye hakol atah rab lehoshia. Mashiv haruach u'morid hagashem. Mechalkel chaim bechesed. Mechaye hakol berachamim rabim. Somech noflim verofei cholim. Umatir asurim. ומקיים אמונתו לשני עפר. מי כמוך בעל גבורות ומי דומה לך, מלך ממית ומחיה ומצמיח ישועה, ונאמן אתה להחיות הכל. ברוך אתה אדוני מחיי הכל. Page 170. אתה קדוש ושמך קדוש, וקדושים בכל יום יהללוך סלה. ברוך אתה אדוני האל הקדוש.
You may be seated. A prayer of joy. God, thank you for joy and delight, for wonder and awe, for moments of gladness and celebration. Grant me the ability to breathe gentleness into my hours and seasons, so that I live awake to beauty, to holiness, to the radiance that surrounds us. Grant me the wisdom to arrive each day with passion and humor, with song and dance, with smiling eyes, in service to myself, in service to others, in service to your holy name. Amen. And we continue with a prayer for peace.
Shalom Rab, Yisrael Amcha, Tasim Leolam. Shalom Rab, Yisrael Amcha, Tasim Leolam. Ki ata hu melech adon lechol hashalom. Ki ata hu melech adon lechol hashalom. Shalom Rab, Yisrael Amcha, Tasim Leolam. Shalom Rab, Yisrael Amcha, Tasim Leolam. V'tov be'enecha livarech et amcha Yisrael b'chol עת ובכל שעה בשלומך. Shalom Rab, Yisrael Amcha, Tasim Leolam. Shalom Rab, Yisrael Amcha, Tasim Leolam. Tasim Leolam. Tasim Leolam.
And as we turn from blessings of peace for our world, we turn inward to blessings of peace for our soul. As we turn towards Misha Berach and we think of all of those in our community who are in need of healing, healing of mind, of body, and spirit. And certainly we think of all of the names that have been written over these many, many months that are on our Misha Berach wall here in the congregation. And I know that so many of us individually are thinking of people who are in our hearts and our minds. And at this time, I'm going to ask you, if you are thinking of a name, for you to call it aloud and add it to our prayer and call it into the universe. into our hearts, and may God swiftly send them a complete renewal of body and spirit as we join together singing Mishaberach for healing. We take a moment for silent and personal prayer.
Shalom, Shalom Aleinu, Le'al Kol Yisrael, V'imru Amen. Oseh Shalom b'Roma, hu yaseh shalom. Shalom aleinu, aleinu, ve'al kol Yisrael, ve'imru.
And a couple of announcements. Tomorrow morning at 9 a.m. will be Torah study, and also at 9 a.m. we hope that you will join us for Tat Shabbat. Tat Shabbat will be on our live stream, and it will also go out to our Facebook page, I believe our congregational Facebook page, as well as our ECC Facebook page. At 10:30 a.m. will be our Shabbat morning service. At 12:30 will be our Musar class, and at 7:30 p.m. will be our Next Week Now. And I want to say a very special thank you to the young people in our congregation, our early childhood center, as well as our religious school. We were collecting yams for the Parkway Food Pantry as part of the Interfaith West County Dialogue. And we were responsible for 100 cans of yams. That is a lot of yams. And in about a week and a half, we collected 100 cans of yams. So thank you so much for that. I did not realize how many different types of yams could come in a can, but I learned that in syrup and water and heavy syrup and this and that. I also want to remind folks that though it is not open after services, the gift shop can be open. All you have to do is call and let the office know. Hanukkah is in a few short weeks, and I think this year we should all go big at Hanukkah. It will be 8 days and nights of pure joy and celebration. So
Amen.
Let's go big and let's light up the darkness and just celebrate the festival of lights. And we turn now in our prayer books to page 586 as we rise and join together for Aleinu.
Aleinu l'shabeach va'adon hakol, לתת גדולה ליוצר בראשית, שלא עשנו כגויי הארצות, ולא שמנו כמשפחות האדמה, שלא שם חלקנו כהם, וגורלנו ככל המונם, ואנחנו קוראים ומשתחווים ומודים לפני מלך מלכי המלכים הקדוש ברוך הוא. Page 591. ונאמר והיה אדוני למלך על כל הארץ ביום ההוא יהיה אדוני אחד ושמו אחד.
You may be seated, and we turn to page 596 in our prayer books. When cherished ties are broken and the chain of love is shattered, only trust and the strength of faith can lighten the heaviness of the heart. At times, the pain of separation seems more than we can bear. But if we dwell too long on our loss, we embitter our hearts and harm ourselves and those about us. The psalmist said that in his affliction he learned the law of God. And in truth, grief is a great teacher when it sends us back to serve and bless the living. We learn how to counsel and comfort those who, like ourselves, are bowed with sorrow. We learn when to keep silent in their presence and when a word will assure them of our love and concern. Thus, even when they are gone, the departed are with us. Moving us to live as in their higher moments they themselves wish to live. We remember them now. They live in our hearts. They are an abiding blessing. This Shabbat, the heartfelt condolences of our congregation go out to the families of Robert Bob Boxerman and Rabbi Lord Jonathan Sachs. We are in the period of Shloshim for Gail E. Goldenberg, Sherry Gorman, Philip Merriam, Robert Allen Rich, Harold Rosenberg. This week, this Shabbat, as we observe their yard sites, we lovingly remember Mark Lawrence Alberstadt, Morris Alberstadt, Melvin Askovich, Hyman A. Barnholtz, Arnold A. Bergson, Yetta Burke, Julius Bylock, William Block, Hattie Fuhrer Block, Gerald Bolt, Muriel Sissy Brody, Angelo A. Carnegie, Fanny Silverman Cohen, Rose Lux Cohn, Leona Rothberg Cosentino, Herbert Kurland, Bernice B. Davis, Bernadine Feldman, Joseph H. Feldman, Ann C. Field, Becky Fearman, Ben Fischel, Eli R. Fleischman, Arthur B. Friedman, Harvey Friedman, Goldie Goldie, Louis Goldman, Lottie Golub, Regina Ginsberger, Herman Hirschberg, Dora Holtzman, Haim Alvin Jacobs, J. Melvin Jacks, Nettie Kahn, Benjamin Kaufman, Michael Robert Keene, Elias Klebansky, Marilyn Quicksilver Kopp, Irving O. Kramer, Valerie Krause, Frida Krause, Isaac Izzy Lipschitz, Lee W. Margulis, Molly Merrims, Martin H. Milner, Jacob M. Moldavsky, Robert C. Moss, Sadie Opper, Sophia Packman, Louis Paskowitz, Sidney F. Perlman, Hannah Pfeffer, Jacob Polinsky, Lillian Goldie Prager, Anna Reifler, Ina Rinskoff, Herman Rodenberg, Bertha Rosen, Pearl Sander, Frank S. Scallett, Edna Schenker, Elsie Shukar, Jack M. Schultz, Lawrence Scher, Janice Silverman, Florence Sipkin, William W. Sokol, Leonard Spielberg, Marvin Tibet Stein, Lillian B. Strauss, David W. Strauss, Joe Weinschelbaum, Rose Werner, Linda Ann Weeder, Abraham Wolf, Al Yavitz, Lisa Ellen Yaffe, Reuben J. Zaid, Joseph Zuckerman. Zichronam Livracha, may each and every one of their memories be a blessing. As we turn to the words of the Mourner's Kaddish on page 598, and we rise. Yit Gadal ve'yit Kadash Shemei Rabbah, Bialma Divrach Yerute V'yamlich Malchute, V'chayechon Uvyomechon, V'chaye Dechol Beit Yisrael, V'agala Uvizman Kariv V'imru Amen. Yehei Shemei Rabbah Mevorach Leolam Momei Almaya. Yit Barach Ve'yishtabach Ve'yitpa'ar Ve'yitromam Ve'yitnaseh. V'yitadar Ve'yitalev Ve'yitalal Shemei Dekudashah Barichu. Le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata. Tushbachata v'nechemata. Damiram be'alma v'imru amen. Yehei shlama rabba min shemaya. V'chayim aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen. Oseh shalom bimromav. Hu ya'aseh shalom. Aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen. We end first with a poem, Let Joy. Let joy spread across your face, flash from your eyes, beam from your lips. Let joy quiet your heart, soothe your lungs, relieve your chest. Let joy flow through your bones, awaken your nerves, caress your flesh. For joy is in the dawn and the dusk, the silence and the great expanse, the flow of light from God's grace, divine wonder and awe, calling out to you, dear sisters and brothers. Awake, you slumberers. Awake, you who sleepwalk through hours and days, blind to hope and love. Have you forgotten Sarah's laugh and Miriam's song? Have you forsaken Jacob's dream and Ezekiel's visions? Have you succumbed to fear and shame? This then is God's command. Let joy hold you, carry you, burst forth from your words and deeds. Let joy take you from season to season. Dance and sing, celebrate and rejoice, lifting your life with exultation. Let joy be your light and your lamp. Blessed are you, God of joy. And if you are still standing, this is that moment to be like Yaakov Shraga. Take this moment to stand and raise your arms, sway to the music as you feel that joy radiate through your body. Sweet sing this song in Nigun.
Olam chesed yevaneh, yadadai, yadadai. Olam chesed yevaneh, yadadai, yadadai. Olam chesed yevaneh, yadadai, yadadai. Olam chesed yevaneh, yadadai. I will build this world from joy. And you must build this world from joy. And if we build this world from joy, God will build this world from joy. Olam chesed yevaneh, Olam chesed
And we wish you a Shabbat of rest, of peace, and most importantly, a Shabbat of joy. Shabbat Shalom.